There is a difference between welcome and comfortable. Welcome means that the door is open to you, that you are greeted in a warm or friendly way, or that you look forward to something like a welcome vacation, or that you have permission to do something like you're welcome to join the choir. Comfortable means that you have physical ease and relaxation, or to be free from stress and fear. It could also mean that you have no financial worry, or that you are relaxed or unrestrained or free from pain. So to be welcome is to be met with openness, and to be comfortable is to be free from suffering. Unitarian Universalists like to hang our identity on the hook of openness, meaning that membership is open because there is no creedal test, but not that we are open to all behaviors, all beliefs, all practices. That's an important distinction. We care about one another intentionally because we are compassionate communities sharing our life's journeys. But when it's possible, comfort can be a blessing. But the quest for constant comfort can also be our shadow. Of course, we want people to be free from hunger and poverty, from pain and suffering, from intimidation or fear. But the idea that we should always feel comfortable, that we should never experience upset or uncertainty, especially when we are people of privilege, is counterproductive. Like we've learned this past year, to be interrupted, to re-examine our beliefs and our priorities can bring growth, learning, and positive change, sometimes even transformation. Openness is more than an idea. It's a practice. It can be extremely hard and sometimes even dangerous. We speak proudly, for example, of the ways that our religious ancestors challenged the dominant cultural beliefs and practices of their times, refusing to be constrained by external or indefensible authorities. They challenged the idea of the Trinity, found it absent from biblical history, and were willing to die for their convictions. This is the literal origin of Unitarianism. Our Universalist ancestors rejected the idea that some were worthy and others were resigned to hell. Instead, they insisted on a path to belonging for all people, that all are welcome, that God excludes no one. Our humanist ancestors rejected that belief in the supernatural should be a defining or excluding characteristic of Unitarian Universalism. An open, non-dogmatic community would welcome people who believe in God or no God. Our queer ancestors challenged the belief that heterosexuality is the only acceptable state, and our pagan ancestors brought an earth-centered message, broadening our perspectives even further. We are a living tradition, continuously changing and growing. I share these samples of our evolution, bearing in mind that evolution is not always gentle. Sometimes it supports survival, and other times it results in extinction. With each of these historical challenges, we found our way to greater openness and welcomed new perspectives into our understanding, but we would be kidding ourselves to say that it was simple or easy. It's important to note that these transitions are ongoing. For instance, in 1990, the version of Welcoming Congregation program had little or no information about welcoming trans people, and we are just picking up on that work now. In recent years, we have had many more important invitations that lay before us, including, but not limited to, Truth, Healing, and Reconciliation, the Eighth Principle Project, Defending Our Planet, Equal Access, Gender and Sexual Diversity, Polyamory, and Widening the Circle of Concern. Our aim as a faith tradition is to create beloved community for all people, a lofty achievement that we continuously struggle to unlock. So we keep trying, opening our hearts, minds, and doors to the inherent worth and dignity of all people. With this purpose, the task of building beloved community is not one of finding our people. It's one of recognizing that all people are our people and learning to navigate these complicated waters. Openness and inclusion do not mean acceptance of all beliefs and behaviors. but they do mean acceptance of each person's inherent worth and dignity. And the worth and dignity of a human is something we must not denigrate, even when we question their beliefs or behaviors. Recognizing that we are truly interdependent with all life, we cannot avoid the people or events that we disagree with. There is no place beyond the web where we can abandon our concerns to. Avoidance has impacts. We must be able to safely engage with conflictual ideas. The challenge is how to participate. Healthy discernment together holds a higher value than silent peace. It is to our peril that we prioritize comfort or avoid discomfort by abstaining from difficult conversations or decisions. No change throughout our institutional history was received initially with ease. None of them. Through some brave process of conscience and daring, we found ourselves interrupted and challenged to ask, what if we were wrong about this? What if we've built a wall where a door was needed? What if we've created a stuck place around this issue? What if our head is in the sand? We worry that it can be exhausting to encounter interruption where people point out our flaws and identify our barriers, and we get tired and we feel like our resources are stretched thin and we just need a little break. We just need a little comfort. And it's always important to care for one another. But how we care matters. If we're protecting each other from facing these challenges in life or working together to avoid responsibility, then our efforts are misguided. Comfort doesn't come from resistance. Resistance eats at us. Comfort comes from integrity, from knowing that we are consistent with our values. And when our values are challenged, comfort comes from doing the work, the courageous work of opening ourselves. What if we were wrong about this? Integrity is where we live fully in alignment with our highest understanding and is a continuously evolving process. Integrity in our religious communities can be complex because while we share principles, we each bring different ideas about how to interpret or live them in the world. In a welcoming space, we must make room for a range of perspectives where multiple cultures can coexist. The better we get at being open, the more we need to learn new ways to share. In shadow comfort, if we are afraid of difference or diversity, we keep those ideas to ourselves to avoid having our fears exposed. If we are conflict avoidant, we allow harmful behaviors to go unchecked rather than risk having to address them ourselves. When comfort is a higher priority than openness or caring, we get attached to our communities looking or feeling or acting in a certain way, or we cling to specific beliefs or practices as preferable. When we can check in and honestly ask ourselves, am I prioritizing my own comfort? Am I preferencing my own ways of moving through the world? Then we're on track to grow. Jason Shelton, in a choral workshop featuring the 6 Unitarian Universalist sources, reminded us that if we are not willing over time to represent all of the sources in our Sunday worship music, then we are not making room for the diversity of practice that we say we welcome. It was an important reminder that people are nourished or inspired by different things. I experienced a powerful personal interruption in 2017 while preparing for the first #UU White Supremacy teach-in. The idea for the teach-in originated in the US in response to a painful incidence of racism at the national level. The concept grew into a national invitation, and then LREDA, the Continental Liberal Religious Educators Association, explicitly invited Canadians to participate. Strong leadership with clear messaging is a beautiful thing. The originators of the Teach-In project, Aisha Hauser, Christina Rivera, and Kenny Wiley, sent out this message. The ask is simple and challenging. During your Sunday worship time, devote your program to explore white supremacy and help your UU community commit to resisting it. Everyone has to start somewhere, and it takes a commitment to disrupt business as usual. So we said yes. Westwood's religious educator, Alara Stefanik Gadet, courageously agreed to partner with me. We felt stretched by the ask and naive to the work. Neither of us is a leader in this movement, so we placed our faith in the work of our learned colleagues. It felt brave and scary to have a sign reading #UU White Supremacy Teach-In facing the street in front of our building. Sunday service was replaced by table conversations exploring the characteristics of white supremacy culture, how they show up in our lives, and how we may have benefited from them. The White Supremacy Culture resource document explained how these characteristics manifest and suggested antidotes to each. This is from the introduction. The characteristics listed below are damaging because they are used as norms and standards without being proactively named or chosen by the group. They are damaging because they promote white supremacy thinking. Because we all live in a white supremacy culture, these characteristics show up in the attitudes and behaviors of all of us, people of color and white people. Therefore, these attitudes and behaviors can show up in any group or organization, whether it is white-led or predominantly white, or people of color-led or predominantly people of color. Perfectionism, for example, includes the norm that making a mistake is confused with being a mistake, doing wrong with being wrong. And the accompanying antidote is develop a learning organization where it is expected that everyone will make mistakes, and those mistakes offer opportunities for learning. Something we learned this year at Westwood to call compassionate imperfection. Some of the other characteristics include sense of urgency, defensiveness, quantity over quality, worship of the written word, either or thinking, objectivity, right to comfort. This document from the Teach-In materials challenged my way of life. It was a description of the ways I had been raised, trained, educated, and ultimately had internalized as normal, beneficial even, naming them and identifying their accompanying harms disrupted my cultural outlook. I still live in and participate in white supremacy culture every day. The characteristics are still more familiar than the antidotes. And I'm learning to be aware of potential harms, learning to interrupt my own behaviors. This is not simple work. There is a tendency to feel shame when you discover that you are a part of something harmful. But the powerful part of this lesson is not getting stuck in the shame. It's choosing to trust the discomfort in pursuit of something better, a more just culture. Openness in our hearts and minds and lives and congregations requires a willingness to be interrupted. This is the willingness to learn and grow, the willingness to consider that our perspective may not actually be correct, or that there are many good ways of moving through the world. Something that felt right for a time can begin to feel wrong. Something that initially appears strange can become familiar. Something that seems hard or intimidating or awkward at first can turn into something beautiful, satisfying, or graceful with practice. We are people of change. It is in our institutional DNA. We have undeniable evidence that we can be nimble and that we can do hard things. We want our religious communities to be vibrant, to reflect the wider population, and to be relevant to their local communities, and to bring benefit to the interdependent web of all existence. We must continuously be willing to ask ourselves the door-opening question: what if we were wrong? Your invitation for this part is twofold. First, follow the link to the Characteristics of White Supremacy document from the UU Teach-In website. Spend some time with it and see what speaks to you, even if you've read it before. Second, consider which characteristics might be impacting the life and vitality of your congregation, community, workplace, or school. Have a conversation with someone about it. Imagine simple ways you might be able to introduce an antidote into the system. This invitation will be on a slide for the next minute, and the link to the White Supremacy document is in the video description below. See you in part 3. Do the thing.